well known, I think, to just about everyone in here. Adrian Stott, who manages round the come round the corner. Adrian's going to talk to us about what this performance. Adrian.
Hello, everyone here okay at the back? Yes?
Yep.
Thank you, okay. So, a few random thoughts on the limits of performance, and so as well as being an ultra runner and doing a bit of jogging over the last 25-30 years, I also help out my older Scottish and UK ultra squads, and the way I work with a lot of athletes is I don't answer many of their questions, but I ask them some more, so they have to answer some things for themselves. So tonight I'm perhaps going to answer a few questions, but also get you to ask a few questions about yourselves, because that's the way you can make progress and find out about your own self and what limits your performance. So, are there limits to performance? And what is limiting you? There's a whole range of spectrum of abilities who run the West Island race. There are very talented guys like Richie Cunningham, who Alan Young managed to capture magnificently going up the Devil's Staircase here a couple of years ago. Richie finished, as you can see, in 16 hours 36.04, which is not hanging about. That's pretty useful. And that year also we had the last finisher, which was Ray McCurdy. Most of you know Ray. Ray's one of the few people who Chris will probably verify puts on weight during the race. Yes. He stops every checkpoint and has all his own food and a lot of other people's food as well. That's Ray. He's a lovely guy. We all know him very well. Yeah. This is not the Highland Way. This is Ray at the Perth Ultra Fest. With a short loop of just 2 kilometres, you can eat an awful lot at every checkpoint there. This is a lovely picture. A good friend Alan Young, his mantra for taking photos is, I don't do starts and finishes. I just get out in the hills and try to capture people and they're not expecting me. You won't know Alan, maybe you'll know his lens because you'll see him on a hilltop taking a picture of you sometime. Yeah. And this was actually Alan found this very emotional because this was when Jan, in the white shorts who was in front, Richie just caught him up and Alan was at the top of the Devil's Staircase looking down and just watching him coming up and saying, is Richie going to catch him by the time he gets here? And just as they got to Alan was where they closed in a few metres. But the thing is, at times like this, something goes on here with sort of Richie's at the bottom of the staircase, seeing Jan at the top, and he's like, I'm going to get this guy, I'm going to get this guy. But there's something going on up here that makes him want to do that. And we all know that Richie did hang on to win in the end, and had this, Alan got this very emotional picture at the end. And those of us who've worked at the finish know at the end of the Highland Way, you go through every emotion. Grown men and women just break down in tears, and it's absolutely fabulous to see it from everybody. And there's people here now, you think, no, I'm not going to do that, I'm man enough for this, but you'll get there, and if you don't, your backup will shed a little tear with you, believe me. That's the emotion that takes us to the journey's goal that's there, that little goblet you're all thinking about all the time, because all these little thoughts in our head going around is what gets us going and keeps us going through all those months and months of training building up to the race. So, in terms of what other motivation, this is another very motivational picture. This little lady most people have heard of is Lizzie Hawker, winning the World 100K in 2006. And it's a bit of a fuzzy picture, I'm sorry, but what is unassuming about this is that about 20 metres behind Lizzie is Monica Carlin, the Italian. And if you look at the times, Lizzie was 7 hours 29.12 and Monica was 7:29.16. It's the closest you can get to almost a photo finish in over 62 miles of running. And again, they're not hanging around. Those of you who don't know 100k pacing, 7:29 equates to about 7:15 a mile. So they're going through a marathon in about sort of 3:5, 3:10, well inside 4 hours of 50k, and then doing the same again. Lizzie was in front to halfway, and about 60k Monica caught her up. They then about 35k running neck and neck. And some of the last 5k, they accelerated and accelerated. And I spoke to Lizzie since. I said, what motivated you that last 5k? And I said, was it just winning? She said, no. I wanted Caroline's British record. Caroline Hunter's British record was 7:28. And she was rather miffed that she missed it by a minute. But it's different thought processes people have that helps that motivation. Monica Carlin was pretty chuffed because she got her goal of finishing inside 7.5. So second. She was a bit buggered to be second, but she was happy with 7.5 hours. A lot of guys will be happy with that. So, what factors do limit performance? There are a lot of factors. This chap has quite a few things that limit his performance. And he's not shy about it. Some of you will remember Chris talking last year. Who was at the talk last year when Chris was here? Yeah? Yeah? Fabulous guy, and as those of you who don't know, Chris lost a leg and an arm in a landmine accident. Did it demotivate him in life? Not at all. It gave him fresh motivation to keep doing things. But from a running point of view, he's got a real distinct disadvantage. In fact, he's only got one leg, he's only got one arm, so he's losing his balance, and the muscles on his right side will do all this extra work to compensate for what's not happening on this side. So when Chris did the Highland Way, he didn't have a shoe on a prosthetic. He had one of these steel blades. And I remember the year he did it, I wasn't there. I was across in Belgium helping out at 100k, and I was getting texts from Dario. I got this one magic text about 4 in the morning. Say I was helping out at the Night of Flanders 100k, so we were both doing races through the night. And he said, just had this text from helpers, Chris Moon's just changed his prosthetic leg, you know. So he had to back up this, I think, if you have a run with a prosthetic leg, make sure you have a spare. Because the following year when Chris did it, he only had one prosthetic leg, and the leg bust on Loch Lomond side, so he had to drop out, so he didn't have a spare one. But little things like that can limit performance, but you shouldn't feel sorry about it, because you've got 2 arms and legs, you can still get there. Yeah. But all these little things can limit performance. And we could spend a whole evening talking about even one of these topics, but genetics, physiology, biomechanics, the training you do, technology, endless arguments about Garmins and Polars. Do they help? Do they hinder? Guys 30 years ago, Ron Hill never used a Garmin, never used a Polar monitor. Did it do him any harm? No. Compression socks? One never heard of them, but still did good times. The environment, that can limit things. Things like diet. I won't steal Andy's thunder. Andy's going to talk about diet a bit later. Social factors, and then motivation can limit performance as well. So what can you control out of all of those? Some things you can control, and some things are out with your control. Genetics, haven't got much to say in that. You're just born with what you are. Yeah? And try and choose your parents well, as the coaches say. You'd be like Lindsay Sharp, who was our top 800 metre runner, who had to choose parents, a champion 800 metre runner and a champion 200 metre runner. So that's a pretty good gene pool to go from. Physiology and biomechanics follows on from genetics. If you choose your parents well, you can get a good set of biomechanics and you can be pretty efficient, and you can work to improve that to a great extent. Training, well, we can all train and improve ourselves that way. You can control what you do in training. If you want to do the Highland Way, you look at your event. What does it involve? It involves running 95 miles up and down hills and dales. You don't train on a treadmill in the gym for that. It's not going to work. You can put a treadmill in elevation, I guess, put some rocks on the treadmill, but it doesn't quite hack it, does it? Technology we've talked about again, that can hinder or help performance depending on where you're coming from. The environment can certainly limit performance. If you did the Highland Way here, you're dealing with temperatures totally different to something like the Western States, or something like the Atacama Crossing. If you did a 10k here in Edinburgh or Glasgow, you'd be fine. If you went and did a 10k in Mexico City, or Lima in Peru, you'd probably be 5 minutes slower. So there's lots of environmental things, altitude, temperature, that can limit performance. Again, diet, I won't steal Andy's thunder, he'll come on to that. Social factors. I had a runner email me recently, I'm having trouble with my training. Can't really focus on things, something's going wrong, what do you think it is? And I phoned him up and said, well, what's changed? Something's changed in your life recently, what is it? Well, I moved house. Little things like this can affect everything. If you just move shop, gosh, I've had a month where I've done about 20, 30 miles a week. I'm not supposed to be running the Highland Way in June, and I'm way behind schedule. Things like this, your relationships, your whole work situation can affect things. So if you're training for a big race like the Highland Way, please, if you're a doctor, don't get put on night shifts the week before the race. It's not going to help you. You can control some of these things, but some can be out of your control, but you've still got to cope with them as they crop up in life. And then you have the big thing of motivation and how that can limit performance. Big arguments amongst a lot of doctors, runners, coaches. How much talent are you born with? Which goes back to the genetics. And how much talent can we develop with training? How can we improve? I can't tell you that. And let's get to know you and know sort of what your training is, how quickly you can recover, many things. You can ask yourself that. What bits of my training can I improve? Am I doing enough long runs? Do I need to do speed work? All these little questions you can ask yourself. And the factors that influence running 95 miles are not a lot different to doing a half marathon or marathon training. You're just pushing the boundaries out a little bit further in terms of what speed work or what endurance you have to do. Do I need to do hills? Do I need to do downhill training as well as uphill training? All these sort of things. Again, it's a vast topic. Only a coach who knows you well can look at your training and see how you can improve that. I'm rattling through this because we're a bit stretched for time, but you want to ask yourself, what makes the body move? What makes it move faster? Are there certain things you can do to make it move faster? What makes the body slow down? You just totally run out of juice at times, down to diet and things which Andy might pick up on in a minute. What makes the body stop? Is it purely physical? Is it just mental? Is it just a will to go on? When you think about what does make the body work and what motivates the body, have a think about this. We are really a collection of bones held together by muscles, tendons, and ligaments encased in a bag of skin. Just think of yourself. That's what you are. Okay, you're clothes on today, but you just look at yourself tonight and you go home. How does that all work? What makes that work? Which brings me around to the thought that without a brain to react to external or deeper stimulus, we remain an inanimate bag of bones, basically. Yeah? Doing absolutely nothing. We'd just be sitting, lying in the bed all day, nothing to get us out of bed in the morning. So, what does motivate us to actually do the things you want to do, to run 95 miles in a very challenging environment? And stimuluses basically come from two sources. You've got the outer stimuluses and the inner stimuluses. They come from within and without. A lot of runners talk about the outer stimuluses and the inner stimuluses. Coaches have written huge theses about it. It all boils down to the inspiration comes from outside things, which are all very tangible. Books, magazines, forums, all the stuff you read on there. Inspiration like this, getting together with people, tales of adventure. And you've got the inner things, your thoughts, the ideas. What motivated you to start running the West Island Way in any way, to want to choose to do it? How many people do it for the first time this year, incidentally? First time this year? Quite a few of you, it's good, yeah? Nervous? Yeah? But the thought you had to say, I'm going to have a go at this year, becomes something tangible after a while. You grow into the whole thought of, yeah, I can do this. And history shows that people can do this. It's nothing too outrageous. And you have dreams about it. But the original inspiration you have to hold fast to all through your training. Because that's what keeps you motivated. When you're having a hard time in Glencoe, you have to dig into that inspiration that kept you going in the first place. And that goes for your backup as well. Support crews, although we're talking about runners, the support crews have this same motivation inside them. There's a little switch to flick to sort of get your runner in gear. Come on, get your ass in gear and get up that hill! Yeah? You can play a big part in doing that, but you've got to be motivated as well. So, some of you will come across this gentleman. He's of an age now that only a handful of people in this room probably met him. Who's actually met Donald here? Many? Yeah, not very many. Anyone not heard of Donald here? Yeah, a few people. Yeah, okay. Donald was voted the best ultra runner of the last century, basically. Yeah. And he's a proud Scot from Aberdeen, originally ran in Lossiemouth, and at one time he held every Scottish record from 50 kilometres right through to 24 hours. That's the 50k, the 30 mile, the 40 mile, the 50 mile, the 100k, 150k, the 200k, and the 100 mile, and the 24-hour record. He also held, at one point in time, all the British records of that distance and all the world records of that distance except the 24-hour. And he's just a quiet Scot from Lossiemouth. Didn't do a blog, didn't have forums in those days. And the 6:10:20 was his crowning achievement. So the 6:10:20 is a bit of a telephone number, but that's the time he achieved for 100 kilometres, which is still the best ever recorded time for 100k. And those of you who've got a bit of a brain and a bit of maths, break that down to mileage, and some of you know me here well, we've heard this thing before because it's become a bit of a mantra, but 6:10:20 is 5 minutes 59 a mile. Okay? That's 2:38 marathon, another 2:38 marathon, and then another 10 miles on top at the same pace. Yeah? And that was set running round and round the track at Crystal Palace in 1977, and no one's ever beaten it yet. Some people are very close on the road, but what motivated Donald to do that sort of time on a track, for God's sake, just running around in circles? He's a very quiet man, Donald, but when you talk to him, he just sort of, I talked to him many occasions and said, well, when you did that race, what kept you going? He just said, it was just like a little friend that appeared in my head every now and again, and I called him inspiration. And whenever things got hard, he just says, I just invited this little friend to come and say hello to me. Okay, right? But the more you think about it, and I was just a young guy at the time, just starting out my ultra adventures, and The more you run yourself, the more you spend time on your own in the hills and get into your own little space, which we all do from time to time, this little thing called inspiration does become your friend. You know, it's a little something inside all of us. And it's a little flick, you flick, just to switch it on and switch it off all the time. And we all know what it is. You know, we don't sometimes call it inspiration, it's a little feeling we have. But Donald said whenever he was having a hard time, he just goes, okay, where's inspiration, where are you? You know, there's still something there, it's not out there, it's somewhere in here. And that's something we've all got to find, and it's something we nurture in all our training, in all the months and months of training we do. Okay, moving along. So, guys like Donald also work very well to prepare well. When you're at the start line, knowing you will finish. If you ever at the start of a big race, or any race, even a local 10K, 99% of people just very nervous, chatting out to each other. Oh, how are you doing today? Yes, great. Oh, I've got a bit of sore leg, I'm not sure how I'm going to do. The guys who are totally focused and prepared, they're there at the front, they're looking straight ahead. They know what they're going to do today, and they're just up for it, quiet in their own little space. When Donald goes to the start of a race, when he did, he was just there on the start line knowing he'd be running under 7 hours. I went to the 24 hours once, and I knew he was going to run over 150 miles in that 24 hours, and he knew it as well. And it was just his executing it on the day. He'd done all the preparation, he'd done all the mental preparation. He'd visualised himself at 30 miles, 50 miles, 100 miles, whatever, all the way through the race. And that's something you have to do for the Highland Way. Just practice visualising yourself at various stages on the route. Think of yourself when you're at Maradona. Think of yourself climbing all those blooming boulders up the mountainside, you know, over the trees. Don't let them put you down. You could have a 5K stretch where it's going to be torture, and you're thinking, oh gosh, another 60 miles of this. But it's only another 5K. You can pass, gets quick again. You can stop. But the important thing is to go to that start line just knowing that you're going to actually finish. And just when you're on the start line, just holding in your goal the vision of Fort William and that picture of Richie crying. Grown men who are winning the race, just erupting in emotion, because that will happen to you as well. Yeah? It doesn't happen to the finish and you hide it a little bit, it'll happen to you somewhere on the way. You know? So just to sum things up, pushing in with what is it about? Hold fast to the original idea you have and the motives you have for doing it. And nurture it in training. Adapt it as training goes by as necessary. Keep that original goal that you had. Plan for all eventualities in the event that you do. And yes, share it with your training partners and your support crew. Get your support crew knowing what your goals are so that they can, and what motivates you, so that when you're having a bad time in that race, they can be there to motivate you and help you to flick that switch, to turn that inspiration on. And always remember that the limits to performance, whatever standard you are, whether you're Richie at the front, whether you're Ray McCurdy at the back, the limits to performance are very rarely just physical. Any fit guy can sort of get fit enough to run a marathon. Not many good marathon runners, well, a lot of good marathon runners have tried to run ultras and failed miserably. So you don't have to be very good to be able to do ultras, you just have to have that vision and that thought to carry it through. And do visualise race day. Do visualise the route. Visualise yourself smiling or crying at the finish. Be dedicated, but don't be obsessive. Fine line between dedication and obsession. They're part of the same thing, but there's a little line you cross over where dedication becomes obsession. Do keep everything in perspective. At the end of the day, although we're serious about what we do, it is our playtime. One thing is to look at things that happened on a football pitch in London on Sunday to see that it is just playtime. Keep everything in perspective. And never, never forget how to smile, whatever you do. Humour and smiling can save you from many things during an amateur race. My good friend Don Ritchie, when he had a disaster, used to look at me when I was helping him sometimes and said, "Do you remember Laurel and Hardy?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, it's like that. It's another fine mess we've got ourselves into." And he just smiled through it. But by smiling, you get to know about yourself a lot more. Anyway. So we're running out of time, so I'm going to wind it up there and hand over to Andy, I think, isn't it? Andy, where is he? Are we in first? Yes.
Thanks so much. Really inspiring thoughts there of the way to approach the race, to flick through. I know one of the things that Fiona said, Paul always said, has always been with me when we're out there, and it's completely
and actually we're really privileged to have the chance to do.
Anyway, if I can hand over to the final speaker.